Maya studied the alien faces surrounding her, if you could call them faces. The Crack's delegation's scaled features remained rigidly impassive except for occasional flicks of forked tongues tasting the air. The crystalline Voidborn pulsed with internal light that shifted through spectrums she couldn't fully perceive. Most unsettling were the Thriz representatives, their compound eyes fracturing her reflection into thousands of tiny Mayas, all equally unwelcome. The human will require specialized accommodations, announced Commander Axtoral, his mandibles clicking with what Maya interpreted as annoyance. Their species maintains narrow environmental tolerances and requires frequent periods of unconsciousness. Snickers rippled through the gathering. A Voidborn cadet leaned toward a neighbor, crystalline surface catching the light. I heard they need to consume nutrition multiple times daily. Terribly inefficient design. Maya maintained her military posture, eyes forward, expression neutral. 6 months of diplomatic training had prepared her for this reception. Earth's intelligence briefings had been clear. She would be viewed as a curiosity at best, a liability at worst. Humanity's inclusion in the Galactic Coalition remained provisional, contingent upon their ability to contribute meaningfully to collective security. Her performance here would impact interstellar relations for generations. Commander Axtoral gestured toward a holographic display showing the Academy grounds, a sprawling complex built into an asteroid orbiting a neutron star. Standard quarters in Sector 7 have been modified to accommodate human biological requirements. You will find atmospheric composition adjusted to your tolerances, though slightly oxygen-enriched compared to your homeworld. This should enhance your limited physical capabilities. Maya nodded. Thank you, Commander. The accommodations sound suitable. Suitable? Krizat stepped forward, 7 feet of armored reptilian muscle. His dermal plates shifted as he moved, revealing glimpses of natural weapons beneath. You should be grateful. Resources that could have gone to deserving cadets were diverted to sustain your fragile existence. Protocol dictated non-engagement with provocations. Maya had memorized the diplomatic response: acknowledge, diffuse, redirect. Instead, she turned directly to Krizat, maintaining eye contact despite having to tilt her head upward. I appreciate the Coalition's investment, she said evenly. I look forward to demonstrating its value. Krizat's secondary eyelids flickered, surprise, perhaps, or amusement. Bold words from a species that only achieved spaceflight in the last century. Tournament grounds tomorrow at first rotation, interrupted Commander Axtoral. Initial assessments begin with endurance trials. Dismissed. The gathering dispersed, aliens moving with unsettling efficiency toward their respective quarters. Maya accessed her neural implant, superimposing directional markers across her vision. Earth technology, clumsy and obvious compared to the biotechnological integration of other species, but functional. Her assigned quarters proved larger than expected. A reinforced viewport revealed the neutron star's swirling accretion disk, casting eerie light across minimalist furnishings clearly adapted for multiple species designs. A recessed alcove contained her sleep platform, enclosable for darkness, a consideration that surprised her. Maya unpacked methodically, laying out the few personal items permitted: a small hologram projector, standard-issue training attire, and a compact medical kit customized for human physiology. She activated the hologram, and a 3-dimensional representation of Earth materialized, slowly rotating to reveal familiar continents and oceans. Display: Academy schematics, overlay biosignature densities, she instructed. The projection shifted, Earth dissolving into a cutaway model of the Academy. Colored heat maps indicated concentrations of various species. Cracks clustered near training facilities, Voidborn gathered around energy generation systems, Thriz dispersed throughout information centers. Maya studied the patterns, identifying optimal routes between critical locations, noting potential choke points and security vulnerabilities. Understanding spatial dynamics had been fundamental to human warfare for millennia. The aliens had built this facility according to their own evolutionary psychologies, inadvertently encoding their thinking into its very architecture. She closed the projection and moved to the center of her quarters, beginning a series of stretching exercises. Her muscles protested after hours of maintaining perfect posture under higher-than-Earth gravity. Tomorrow would push her human physiology to its limits, but tonight offered an opportunity few humans had ever received, a chance to prepare for direct competition against the galaxy's apex species. Maya activated a small device on her wrist, projecting her vital signs. She adjusted her breathing pattern, heart rate gradually slowing as she implemented techniques developed by Earth's special forces for hostile environment adaptation. The implant behind her ear delivered a measured dose of performance enhancers, nothing outside coalition regulations, but optimized specifically for human biochemistry by Earth's best xenobiologists. "They think they know what humans are," she whispered to herself, eyes fixed on the swirling accretion disk outside. "They've only seen our diplomats and traders." The neutron star's radiation bathed her face in blue light as her expression hardened with determination. Tomorrow, they meet a soldier. The assessment arena's gravity shifted for the 5th time in 20 minutes, suddenly doubling Earth normal. Maya's legs buckled momentarily before she compensated, redistributing her weight while keeping her breathing measured. Sweat darkened her uniform despite the temperature regulation systems built into the fabric. Across the expansive training floor, alien cadets moved with enviable ease. A trio of Thriz scuttled up a vertical wall, their multiple limbs finding purchase on nearly invisible surface irregularities. Nearby, a Voidborn cadet hovered 6 inches above the floor, crystals humming with stored energy as they negated the gravitational fluctuations entirely. "Unusual resilience for your species," remarked the evaluator, a multi-limbed being whose translucent exoskeleton revealed pulsing internal organs. "Most non-adapted biologics require hospitalization after 3 gravity shifts." Maya nodded acknowledgement while maintaining focus on the obstacle course ahead. Earth's training facilities had prepared her for up to 4 GS, but theory differed from practice. Each breath felt like inhaling syrup, her enhanced muscles straining against pressures they weren't evolved to withstand. "Human," Krizat called from across the chamber, his massive form seemingly unaffected by the crushing gravity. "Perhaps you prefer the juvenile course. I understand your world has only a single stable gravitational field." Laughter rippled through the assembly. Maya didn't respond. Instead, she studied Krizat's movements, noting how his weight distribution changed microseconds before each gravity shift. The cracks had evolved on a world with extreme tidal forces. Their inner ears likely contained specialized organs that detected gravitational fluctuations. The assessment director, a spindly being with reflective skin, activated the next phase. Endurance evaluation commencing. Complete as many circuits as physically possible. Medical termination will occur if vital signs indicate imminent biological failure. A holographic countdown appeared, and Maya accessed her neural implant, initiating programmed hormonal adjustments. Earth scientists had pushed the boundaries of acceptable biological enhancement, staying just within coalition regulations while maximizing human adaptability. The signal sounded. Alien cadets surged forward, some moving so quickly they blurred in Maya's vision. She started at a measured pace, conserving energy while maintaining position near the back of the pack. The course transformed around them, surfaces becoming molten, sections dematerializing, atmospheric composition shifting without warning. During the 3rd circuit, the arena floor split open, revealing a chasm that dropped away into darkness. Several cadets, including Krizat, simply leaped across the 15-meter gap. The Voidborn phased partially out of normal spacetime, reappearing on the opposite side. Maya approached the edge, calculated trajectory, and used a nearby support column to change her momentum. She landed hard on the opposite side, rolling to distribute impact forces as trained. The maneuver cost precious seconds, but she continued without breaking stride. By the 5th circuit, cadets began falling out. A mercury collapsed, its breathing sacs overextended. 2 Thriz withdrew after sustaining exoskeleton fractures. Maya continued, her neural implant delivering carefully calibrated doses of adenosine and synthetic adrenaline compounds. The human persists, murmured a senior evaluator to Commander Axtoral. Unexpected. Meaningless, the commander replied. Observe her metrics. She'll terminate within the next circuit. Maya's internal readings flashed warning indicators across her augmented vision. Core temperature, 103.1 degrees Fahrenheit. Heart rate, 187 BPM. Muscle fatigue approaching critical. She activated her secondary metabolic pathway, an experimental modification that temporarily converted lactic acid buildup into usable energy at the cost of accelerated cellular degradation. Pain bloomed across her muscle groups, but she maintained pace through the 6th circuit. By the 8th, only 12 cadets remained, with Maya still trailing the group. During the 9th, Krizat suffered a dramatic injury. A gravity shift combined with molecular destabilization caused his regenerating arm to twist unnaturally. The crack of breaking bone echoed through the chamber. To everyone's surprise, he laughed. Before the medical team could intervene, his physiology visibly restructured the damaged appendage. The other cadets chittered appreciatively at the display of Crack's resilience. Maya filed the observation away. Crack's regeneration prioritized structural integrity over nerve repair. Useful information. By the 12th circuit, Maya was one of only 5 cadets still participating. Her vision tunneled, peripheral awareness fading as her body diverted blood flow to critical systems. The room had fallen unusually quiet, alien observers tracking her movements with newfound attention. Terminal indicators approaching, noted the medical officer. Recommend intervention. Wait, Commander Axtoral raised a limb. I want to see how far the human pushes before biological failure. Maya completed the 14th circuit as the final Thriz competitor withdrew, leaving only herself, a Voidborn, and Krizat. Her neural implant flashed urgent shutdown warnings, calculating a 78% probability of organ damage if she continued. She disabled the warning system. When Krizat finally glanced back to locate her position, expecting to see an empty track, he instead found the human still running, face streaked with sweat, expression unchanged since the beginning of the assessment. For the briefest moment, his secondary eyelid flickered in what might have been confusion. During the 16th circuit, the assessment director finally called the evaluation complete. Maya staggered to a stop, carefully controlling her breathing to hide respiratory distress. She placed 3rd, a result unprecedented for any Category 3 species in Coalition history. Interesting, murmured Veshna, the crystalline cadet who'd taken 1st place. The Voidborn's faceted surface reflected Maya's exhausted form. You function beyond your physiological parameters. Maya managed a slight smile through cracked lips. Humans always have. Later, as medical technicians applied regenerative compounds to her overtaxed muscles, Maya reviewed the performance data through her neural interface. She finished well behind the leaders but had outlasted 22 other cadets. More importantly, she gathered critical information about competitors' capabilities and limitations. That night, Maya's quarters recorded unusual energy readings as she conducted an unauthorized enhancement to her neural implant. Coalition bioscanners would detect nothing unusual. The modification affected data processing rather than physical capabilities. Earth's Intelligence Division had provided the algorithm specifically for this purpose. Pattern recognition optimized for identifying physiological weaknesses in non-human combatants. As artificial lighting simulated Earth's nighttime, Maya reviewed combat footage of each major species, memorizing their movement patterns while performing isometric exercises designed to speed muscle recovery. Her implant projected failure probabilities for tomorrow's assessment: 89.3% likelihood of bottom quartile performance in strength evaluation, 92.7% in speed trials. Acceptable losses: The tactical simulation would provide her first real opportunity to demonstrate human cognitive advantages. Until then, she would continue gathering data and appearing exactly as they expected, determined but outmatched. The aliens had yet to realize that physical assessments were merely Maya's reconnaissance phase. Maya rotated the Crack's heavy rifle in her hands, feeling its substantial weight. The weapon's design clearly favored the reptilian species' upper body strength and natural recoil compensation. Its grip was uncomfortably wide for human hands, the trigger guard sized for clawed digits, and the stock meant to brace against reinforced shoulder plates rather than soft human tissue. Perfect. An interesting selection, observed weapons master Tik-Ra, appendages twitching with what Maya had learned to recognize as amusement. The ancient Thriz's carapace bore ceremonial etchings documenting centuries of combat experience. Perhaps a translation error. You've selected a TK-950 Devastator, typically employed by Crack's shock troops. Around the weapons hall, cadets paused their own selections to observe the human's apparent mistake. Kryzot's scales flushed a deeper crimson, a physiological response Maya had noted indicated either aggression or territorial display. No error, Maya replied, maintaining a neutral tone. Unless coalition regulations prohibit cross-species weaponry. Tik-Ra's mandibles clicked rapidly. No prohibition exists. However, biological incompatibility will result in performance failure. The Thriz gestured toward a rack of smaller weapons. The TX-27 pulse pistol was specifically modified for species lacking secondary skeletal reinforcement. The recoil compensation system. Thank you for your concern, Maya interrupted with practiced diplomatic courtesy. I'll proceed with my original selection. The weapons master's compound eyes refracted light as inner membranes adjusted focus. As you wish, your medical file has been flagged for priority response. Kryzot approached, his massive form casting Maya in shadow. The human doesn't understand, he said to Tik-Ra, speaking as if Maya weren't present. A TK-950 generates 87 newtons of recoil force per discharge. Without natural shock absorption, the first shot will fracture her shoulder complex. Maya maintained eye contact with the weapons master. I'd like to proceed to the firing range. The assessment chamber had been reconfigured into specialized weapons testing zones. Various atmospheric conditions, gravitational fields, and target scenarios accommodated the diverse evolutionary backgrounds of coalition species. Maya proceeded to the standard gravity section, aware of the growing audience following her progress. Cadet Chen appears determined to provide medical staff with employment, remarked Commander Axtoral to his adjutant. Both officers had appeared shortly after Maya's weapon selection, drawn by rapidly spreading rumors of human irrationality. Maya positioned herself at the firing line, conscious of proper form. Earth's training facilities had never possessed actual Crack's weaponry, but simulations based on intercepted specifications had allowed her to practice the necessary adaptations. She adjusted her stance wider than standard human protocols suggested, engaging her core muscles to create a more stable platform. The targeting system activated, holographic projections materializing downrange. Standard humanoid outlines appeared at varying distances, the simplest assessment program. Maya raised the weapon, compensating for its awkward balance. The targeting optics, designed for Crack's unique visual spectrum, rendered everything in a disorienting blue-green haze. She disengaged the optical system entirely, relying instead on the weapon's mechanical sights. Commencing assessment, announced the range coordinator. Standard qualification protocol. 20 targets, variable distance and exposure duration. Maya took a measured breath, implementing techniques developed by Earth's special forces for operating alien technology. Her implant delivered a precise cocktail of muscle relaxants and focus enhancers, redistributing her body's resources for optimal performance. The first target appeared. Maya squeezed the trigger. The recoil was brutal, even more powerful than simulations had predicted. The force traveled through her arms and into her reinforced shoulder joint, where specialized impact-absorbing materials integrated into her seemingly standard uniform dispersed the energy across her upper torso. The discomfort registered as intense pressure rather than pain. The target displayed a center mass hit. Murmurs spread through the observing cadets. Maya maintained focus, adjusting her stance slightly to better absorb the next impact. The second target appeared, and she fired again, this time anticipating and leaning into the recoil. Another hit. By the fifth target, Maya had established a rhythm, her body adapting to the weapon's feedback pattern. The specialized nanomaterials in her uniform heated with each impact, nearing their dispersion capacity, but remained functional. "Impossible," muttered Krezut, loud enough for nearby cadets to hear. "The bone density required." "Not impossible," corrected Veshna, the Voidborn's crystalline surface pulsing with analytical patterns. "Merely improbable. The human has clearly made modifications." "Scan detects no prohibited enhancements," reported the range supervisor, a multi-limbed being monitoring biometric readings. "Subject remains within acceptable parameters for species, though approaching stress thresholds." By the 12th target, Maya's performance had drawn a substantial crowd. Senior instructors appear along the observation deck, recording devices activated. The weapon grew hot in her hands, its heat dissipation system designed for Krax's higher temperature tolerance. Maya completed the standard qualification with 18 successful hits from 20 attempts, a score that placed her in the upper quartile of first-year cadets. She carefully engaged the weapon's safety protocols before placing it on the examination table, her movements deliberately controlled to hide the trembling that had begun in her overtaxed muscles. "Your assessment is complete, Cadet Chen," announced Tikra, approaching with an altered gait that suggested reassessment. "You may proceed to medical evaluation. Request permission to continue to secondary weapon assessment," Maya responded, maintaining formal protocol despite the burning sensation spreading through her shoulder complex. The weapons master's compound eyes seemed to study her with new intensity. Secondary weapon preference. Thriz phase blade. A ripple of clicking sounds, the Thriz equivalent of gasps, spread through the observing cadets. The phase blade required neurological compatibility with Thriz sensory apparatus, allowing the wielder to anticipate the weapon's dimensional shifts. Most non-Thriz species experienced immediate disorientation upon activation. "Denied," stated Commander Axtoral, stepping forward. "Medical evaluation first. Secondary assessment contingent upon clearance." Maya acknowledged the order with a crisp nod, then proceeded toward the medical bay, conscious of the analytical gazes following her exit. The demonstration had achieved its purpose. The physical cost was acceptable. The specialized healing compounds supplied by Earth would repair the microfractures developed during the assessment before tomorrow's session. More importantly, she had changed the conversation. No longer was she dismissed as merely fragile. Now she represented an anomaly, still underestimated, but finally noticed. As she walked, Maya mentally reviewed the catalog of remaining weapons she intended to master. Voidborn energy channels, Mercury's sonic disruptors, and most critically, the Thriz neural interfaces. Each demonstration would reveal another facet of human adaptability while generating valuable tactical data about alien combat methodologies. The Academy's weapons vault contained technologies Earth's military had only theorized about. Maya intended to know them all intimately before graduation. Simulated acid rain hissed against energy shields as Maya circled her opponent in the combat arena. The Mercury Cadet, a being composed of fibrous tendrils encased in a gelatinous exoskeleton, flowed across the platform with unsettling fluidity. Its movement patterns defied standard prediction algorithms, a biological advantage that had eliminated 3 previous competitors. Maya's ribs throbbed where nanobenders worked to repair hairline fractures from yesterday's training. The medical staff had cleared her for combat only after extensive debate, their xenophysiology specialists unable to explain her rapid recovery rate. The truth that her uniform contained advanced medical systems developed specifically for this mission remained her closely guarded advantage. "Commence elimination round 6, announced the combat instructor, a scarred cracks veteran whose missing eye had been replaced with a pulsing sensory organ. Victory by incapacitation or surrender only. The Mercury struck first, pseudopods extending with whip-like speed. Maya sidestepped, analyzing the attack pattern. The species possessed distributed nervous systems, no central brain or critical vulnerabilities. Conventional human combat techniques would prove ineffective. Maya allowed the next strike to graze her shoulder, gathering tactile data while appearing to miscalculate. The contact left a numbing sensation, mild neurotoxins designed to slow mammalian reflexes. Her implant immediately released counteragents, maintaining neural response times within operational parameters. The human employs a curious strategy, observed Zixtra from the observation deck, allowing contact to study the opponent. Inefficient, replied another Thriz cadet. Data collection at the expense of tactical position indicates poor judgment. Maya retreated, drawing the Mercury toward the arena's environmental transition zone. As they crossed the boundary, atmospheric composition shifted, introducing particulate matter designed to challenge respiratory systems. The Mercury's outer membrane began secreting protective coating, an autonomic response that briefly divided its attention. Maya struck during that microsecond of adaptation, targeting junction points where sensory clusters connected to locomotive systems. Not to damage, impossible given her strength limitations against the resilient species, but to create feedback loops in its neural network. The Mercury shuddered, its fluid movements becoming temporarily uncoordinated. Maya pressed the advantage, herding her opponent toward the arena's thermal gradient. The temperature dropped precipitously, causing the Mercury's outer membrane to stiffen as protective mechanisms engaged. Fascinating application of environmental factors, murmured Commander Axtoral, who had arrived midway through the match. The human compensates for physical limitations through environmental manipulation. The Mercury, recognizing Maya's strategy, attempted to counter by extending multiple appendages simultaneously. One connected solidly with Maya's midsection, the impact lifting her from the platform and sending her crashing against the boundary field. Pain exploded across her torso as recently repaired ribs separated again, nerve endings firing emergency signals throughout her system. The arena fell silent, observers expecting the typical response, a surrender signal or incapacitation announcement. Medical drones hovered nearby, prepared for extraction. Instead, Maya implemented Earth's most closely guarded combat technique, pain compartmentalization. Her neural implant isolated pain signals, creating cognitive firewalls between sensation and functional response. Her breathing patterns shifted to minimize torso movement while maintaining oxygen levels. She rose to her feet, expression unchanged despite injuries that would incapacitate most species. Cadet Chen. Medical readings indicate 3 displaced ribs and potential internal hemorrhaging, the combat instructor announced. Do you concede the match? Maya met the instructor's gaze, her voice steady. Negative. I am combat operational. A ripple of communication spread through the observing cadets, a mixture of confusion, disbelief, and reevaluation. The Mercury opponent paused, sensory appendages quivering in what might have been uncertainty. Maya used the hesitation to implement the next phase of her strategy. She activated her uniform's thermal elements, dramatically increasing her heat signature. The Mercury, evolved to hunt prey through temperature differentials, instinctively recoiled from the sudden thermal spike, a predatory species aversion to potentially toxic prey. In that moment of biological confusion, Maya executed a precisely calculated strike against the Mercury's equilibrium nodes. Her opponent toppled, sensory systems temporarily overwhelmed by conflicting inputs. Match concluded, declared the instructor after the Mercury failed to reestablish coordinated movement within the regulation timeframe. Victory decatted Chen through technical incapacitation. Maya deactivated her thermal systems and offered the formal coalition salute to her fallen opponent, maintaining perfect composure despite the protest of damaged tissue with each movement. Only after exiting the arena did she allow herself to lean briefly against a support column, away from observing eyes. "Your species' relationship with physical damage is unexpected," said a voice beside her. Veshna materialized from a partially phased state, crystalline structure refracting light in patterns that indicated intense analysis. "The injury you sustained should have triggered autonomous withdrawal responses." Maya straightened, suppressing the instinctive wince. "Different evolutionary paths, different responses to stimuli. You chose to continue despite knowing continued combat would worsen your injuries," the Voidborn observed. "This conflicts with biological imperatives for self-preservation." "Humans evolved as persistence predators," Maya explained, carefully managing her breathing. Sometimes continuing despite injury meant the difference between starvation and survival. Those who could compartmentalize pain passed on their genes. Veshna's surface rippled with information processing. "Your species developed consciousness in an environment where physical damage was routine enough to require neural adaptation." Concerning. Before Maya could respond, medical personnel arrived to escort her to treatment. As she departed, she noticed Commander Axe Toral engaged in urgent communication with someone off-station, his expression uncharacteristically troubled. Later that evening, as advanced medical compounds accelerated her recovery, Maya reviewed arena footage. The passive scanners in her implant had gathered valuable data on 7 different species' combat responses. More importantly, she had altered fundamental assumptions about human physiological limitations. In her quarters, Maya accessed her secure communication channel with Earth Command, composing her weekly assessment. She detailed technical specifications of observed weapons systems, xenobiological vulnerabilities identified, and estimated timeline for infiltrating advanced training protocols. The final section of her report addressed the Academy's shifting perception of human capability. Initial dismissal transitioning to cautious reassessment. Estimated 60% probability that command structure now considers humans potential tactical assets rather than diplomatic concessions. Recommend acceleration of Phase 2 integration timeline while perception remains in flux. As Maya completed her transmission, a notification appeared on her neural interface. Her combat performance had earned her advancement to specialized training previously restricted to apex predator species. The accompanying note from instructor Vez Kroll contained a single additional comment. "Your species continues to defy classification standards. Recommend medical monitoring during advanced combat scenarios." Maya allowed herself a small smile. They still underestimated humans, but that gap was narrowing with each demonstration. Soon they would begin asking the right questions about Earth's evolutionary history. By then, she would be too valuable to remove from the program. The pain in her ribs was a small price for reshaping the galaxy's understanding of humanity's potential. Maya studied the holographic representation of the biodome battlefield. Her teammates clustered uncomfortably around her in the planning chamber. Team assignments had shuffled cadets into mixed species units, deliberately creating evolutionary mismatches. Commander Axe Toral had personally overseen the selections, placing Maya with 3 species whose natural abilities seemingly complemented each other while highlighting human limitations. The opposing team possesses superior sensory capabilities, Krizat observed, his clawed digit indicating the Mercari-Thriz alliance it would face first. Their combined olfactory and electromagnetic spectrum awareness negates standard stealth approaches. Zixtred clicked agreement, compound eyes processing multiple simulation overlays simultaneously. Probability models favor direct confrontation, utilizing your regenerative capabilities as forward shield, with Veshna providing energy-based counterattack. Maya remained silent, analyzing environmental parameters rather than enemy composition. The biodome's artificial ecosystem contained over 200 plant species, varying atmospheric pockets, and microclimate zones designed to disadvantage all participants equally. Academy tradition dictated that teams focus on overcoming the enemy's biological advantages, a perspective that revealed their fundamentally flawed understanding of warfare. I'd suggest an alternative approach, Maya finally said, reaching forward to manipulate the holographic display. The system recalibrated at her touch, highlighting aspects of the terrain the others had dismissed as irrelevant. The southeastern quadrant contains thermally opaque vegetation that disrupts infrared tracking, she explained, enlarging the section. More importantly, the soil composition is rich in ferromagnetic particles that interfere with the Mercury's electromagnetic sensing when disturbed. Kreizat's scales shifted skeptically. You propose hiding in vegetation against opponents who evolved as apex predators in densely forested environments. Not hiding, Maya corrected, expression neutral, creating environmental interference while exploiting their sensory reliance. She manipulated the display again, highlighting water reclamation systems buried beneath the combat zone. These circulation pumps operate on rotational patterns. If recalibrated, they could create subsonic vibrations that would overwhelm the Thriz auditory sensitivity. The three aliens exchanged glances, a universal gesture of uncertainty Maya had noted across species. Your proposal lacks direct engagement, Veshna observed, crystalline surface pulsing with analytical patterns. Coalition doctrine emphasizes confronting biological advantages rather than circumventing them. Because the coalition evolved from predator-prey relationships, Maya replied. Earth warfare developed differently. We learned to weaponize environments against superior forces. Theoretical models suggest your approach has minimal success probability. Zixtre countered, presenting calculation matrices through his personal interface. Traditional doctrine provides 64% higher engagement effectiveness. Maya considered explaining further, but recognized the cultural barrier. These species understood evolutionary competition, direct confrontation between biological advantages. They lacked Earth's history of asymmetric warfare, of weaker forces defeating stronger through environmental manipulation and psychological operations. I defer to team consensus, she said instead, knowing demonstration would prove more effective than explanation. The team proceeded with conventional planning, allocating resources based on standard coalition doctrine. Maya contributed minimally, focusing instead on memorizing environmental details the others considered irrelevant. Water recirculation timing, atmospheric processing schedules, lumination cycles. When the preparation period ended, teams deployed to opposite ends of the biodome. The artificial ecosystem sprawled across 50 acres of the station's central hub, featuring terrain from 20 different homeworlds seamlessly integrated into a complex battlefield. Commencing capture operation in 3 minutes, announced the exercise coordinator. Victory conditions. Secure opponent's command node while defending your own. Simulated casualty protocols in effect. Maya activated her neural implant's enhanced sensory processing, filtering the overwhelming alien environment into recognizable patterns. The implant connected with her uniform's environmental analysis systems, gathering data too subtle for baseline human perception. I will take forward position, Krizat declared, scales hardening into combat configuration. Veshna will provide ranged support while Zixtra coordinates tactical movements. He glanced at Maya. Human, maintain communication relay and rear security. The dismissal was expected. They still considered her the team's weakest asset. Maya nodded compliance while activating a secondary function in her neural implant. The device began passive recording of all tactical decisions and their outcomes, building a predictive model of her teammates' psychological approaches to combat. As Krizat led them toward the central confrontation zone, Maya deliberately lagged behind, collecting soil samples and plant materials. The others didn't notice, focused entirely on the upcoming engagement. The first confrontation occurred exactly where probability models had predicted, a clearing offering neither team significant advantage. Krizat engaged the opposing Mercari in direct combat, while energy discharges from both teams' ranged specialists illuminated the artificial sky. Sophisticated scoring systems tracked simulated damage, projected casualty assessments, and territorial control metrics. Maya remained at the periphery, seemingly contributing little while meticulously gathering environmental data. When Zixtra fell back after sustaining simulated injury to its primary sensory cluster, it found the human creating what appeared to be primitive projectile weapons from biodome materials. "Your activities are tactically irrelevant," the Thriz observed. The engagement follows standard conflict parameters with 78% adherence to projected outcomes. "Parameters change," Maya replied simply, continuing her work. By the exercise's midpoint, both teams had reached stalemate, exactly as historical data predicted for evenly matched biological capabilities. Coalition training emphasized pushing through such impasses with superior determination and tactical adjustments within doctrinal frameworks. Maya approached her increasingly frustrated teammates during a lull in the engagement. "Request tactical reassessment," she said formally. "Current approach yields diminishing effectiveness against adaptive opponents." Krizat's scales flushed with irritation. "The strategy is sound. Execution requires improvement." "The strategy assumes evolutionary advantages determine outcomes," Maya countered. "Consider alternative approach incorporating environmental factors." "Environmental manipulation requires specialized evolutionary adaptations," Veshna stated, repeating coalition military doctrine. "Your species lacks the necessary biological tools." Maya made a decision. Rather than argue further, she held out her hand, revealing what appeared to be simple mud balls. "Permission to demonstrate alternative tactics." Krizat made a dismissive gesture that Maya had learned indicated conditional approval. "Proceed with your demonstration, human." The current tactical pause allows experimentation without compromising our position. Maya moved toward the boundary of their defensive perimeter, calculating trajectories and wind patterns. The opposing team maintained position behind natural cover, their Thriz coordinator visible only as an occasional movement among the vegetation. She launched the first projectile high into the air, its arc carrying it well beyond the enemy position before landing with unimpressive impact. The second and third followed similar paths, seemingly random and ineffective. "Your projectiles failed to reach targets," Zixtra observed. "Ballistic calculations appear flawed." "The projectiles aren't weapons," Maya explained as the mud balls began dissolving in the biodome's irrigation mist. "They're delivery systems." Within moments, the opposing team's position erupted in chaos. The dissolved compounds, a mixture of calcium-rich soil and alkaloid plant extracts Maya had gathered, created a localized chemical reaction with the specialized vegetation. The plants began releasing pollen-like particles that adhered to the Mercari's sensory membrane and interfered with the Thriz's respiratory spiracles. As the opposing team struggled with suddenly compromised biological advantages, Maya turned to her stunned teammates. "Now we attack, but not directly. We use Pattern 3 approach through thermal shadow zones while they attempt to restore sensory function." For the first time since training began, her alien teammates followed a human's tactical lead without question. Alarms pulsed through the academy in patterns Maya had never heard before, not training signals but genuine emergency protocols. The dormitory illumination shifted to crisis wavelengths as her neural implant automatically accessed the central information network. "Code Shatterpoint," announced the automated system. "Non-exercise threat condition. All cadets report to Assembly Point Sigma for emergency deployment." This is not a drill. Maya moved with practiced efficiency, donning her combat uniform while simultaneously reviewing tactical data streaming through her implant. Station sensors indicated a coordinated attack against multiple coalition facilities. The Academy's defensive grid had already repelled 2 penetration attempts. The assembly area churned with confused activity as cadets from 24 species struggled to organize into functional units. General Dex Mur, a massive Krax war veteran with ceremonial kill markers etched into his scales, materialized on the command platform. The Scorch Collective has launched simultaneous strikes against 6 coalition hubs, he announced, voice modulated to carry across species-specific hearing ranges. Primary defense forces are engaged in the Outer Rim conflict and cannot respond within acceptable timeframes. Under emergency protocols, Academy cadets are hereby activated as reserve defensive units. Holographic displays materialized, showing attack vectors, enemy composition, and preliminary casualty reports. Maya analyzed the information with growing concern. The collective's approach indicated insider knowledge of coalition defense protocols. They had timed their attack to exploit the temporary vulnerability created by the Outer Rim deployment. General Dex Mur continued, battle scales flexing with tension. Combat-ready squads will form according to specialization. Apex predator species will comprise forward defensive units. Technical specialist species will manage system security and countermeasures. Support species will coordinate evacuation and medical response. Maya noted her classification immediately. Support species, alongside various non-combatant evolved beings. The designation stung despite its strategic logic. Without natural weapons or evolutionary combat advantages, humans represented a liability in direct confrontation by coalition standards. Cadet Chen called Commander Axe Toral as assignment protocols initiated. Report to evacuation coordination in Sub-Level 3. Your team will assist non-combatant personnel transfer to secure habitation zones. Maya stepped forward, maintaining military bearing despite the dismissal from combat operations. Sir, request reassignment to Tactical Assessment Team. The commander's secondary eyelids flickered with impatience. Denied. Support roles are assigned based on species capability metrics. Proceed to your designated station. As Maya turned to comply, the Academy shuddered under impact. Auxiliary lighting flickered momentarily as power redistributed through backup systems. The holographic displays distorted, then stabilized to show a critical development. A collective strike team had breached the station's tertiary docking ring. Perimeter containment teams deploy immediately, ordered General Dex Mur. Priority Alpha, prevent advancement to critical systems sectors. Maya proceeded toward the Evacuation Coordination Center, mind racing through the tactical displays she analyzed. The collective's approach followed unusual patterns, targeting communication nodes rather than defensive systems, suggesting their primary objective wasn't destruction but something else. Intelligence gathering? Technology acquisition? The second impact hit as she reached Sub-Level 2, significantly stronger than the first. Emergency bulkheads slammed into place throughout the station, automatically compartmentalizing sections to preserve life support. Maya found herself isolated in a connector corridor with 3 other cadets, a Void-born technical specialist and 2 Thriz communications officers. Structural integrity compromised in sections 7 through 12, announced the emergency system. Atmosphere venting detected. Automatic containment initiated. Maya accessed the nearest terminal, interfacing her neural implant with the station's environmental controls. The damage pattern appeared random at first glance, but her pattern recognition algorithms detected subtle consistency. The impacts targeted junction points between major systems rather than the systems themselves. "This isn't a standard assault profile," she muttered, drawing confused looks from her companions. Clarify statement, requested one Thriz cadet, mandibles clicking nervously. "They're not trying to destroy the station or even capture it intact," Maya explained, bringing up schematic overlays. "They're systematically isolating command nodes from response teams. These aren't random strikes. They're precise surgical targeting to create maximum confusion while minimizing actual damage." The Voidborn cadet's crystalline surface pulsed with analytical patterns. Assessment exceeds available data parameters. Defensive protocols dictate proceeding to assigned stations. Maya made a decision that violated direct orders but aligned with her mission parameters. Demonstrate human tactical value in crisis situations. The Evacuation Coordination Center is cut off, she stated, pointing to flashing indicators on the environmental schematic. We need to establish an alternative command node to coordinate response. We lack authority, objected the FRIZ communication officer. Protocol requires. Protocol assumes functional command structure, Maya interrupted. Current conditions indicate communication breakdown between leadership elements. Coalition Emergency Directive 17 permits field initiative when command continuity is compromised. She hadn't expected her obsessive study of coalition military regulations to prove useful so quickly, but the reference silenced immediate objections. The three aliens exchanged glances, their species-specific expressions unreadable to most humans. Maya's implant, however, analyzed micro-movements and physiological indicators, interpreting their uncertainty. Timed critical decision window, she pressed. Every moment of inaction advantages the attackers. The Voidborn finally responded, surfaced shifting to decision mode patterning. Temporary cooperation authorized pending restoration of command authority. What alternative do you propose, human? Maya accessed her neural archive, retrieving Academy schematics she memorized during her first week. Environmental control substation on this level can be repurposed as a coordination hub. It contains necessary communication infrastructure and connects to independent power systems. As they moved through increasingly chaotic corridors, Maya's implant continued analyzing emergency transmissions, building a composite picture of the station's deteriorating situation. The collective forces had employed targeted electromagnetic pulses that disrupted the biologically enhanced systems many species relied upon. Crack's regeneration accelerators failed. Frizz neural networks experienced interference patterns. Voidborn energy manipulation capabilities fluctuated unpredictably. The attackers had specifically engineered countermeasures against evolved biological advantages, something coalition military doctrine considered nearly impossible given the diverse evolutionary paths represented. They reached the environmental substation to find it abandoned, systems running on automated protocols. Maya immediately began reconfiguring communication arrays while directing her companions to specific tasks based on their specializations. Establish priority channels to all functional response teams, she instructed the FRIZ communications officers. Focus on location reporting and status updates rather than command verification. We need situational awareness before attempting coordination. To the Voidborn, she assigned power management. Reroute auxiliary energy to critical systems using non-standard distribution patterns. The attackers are targeting predictable power signatures. As information began flowing into their improvised command center, Maya implemented human military protocols adapted for the multi-species crisis. She established clear communication hierarchies, simplified reporting requirements, and created adaptive response templates that accommodated various biological capabilities. Within 20 minutes, their node had established contact with 63 isolated cadet teams across the station. Within 40 minutes, they had constructed the first comprehensive tactical assessment of the collector's operation. Within the first hour, Maya had begun coordinating counterstrikes, using available resources in patterns the attackers couldn't have anticipated, because they weren't based on coalition doctrine, but on Earth's long history of asymmetric warfare. When General Dexmer's fragmented transmission finally reached their command node, his initial anger at protocol violation quickly transformed into grudging authorization as he recognized the effectiveness of the human-designed response network. Maintain coordination activities, Cadet Chen, the general ordered, his voice distorted by communication interference. Your node has established most effective resistance patterns station-wide. Field promotion to acting tactical officer granted for duration of crisis. As Maya acknowledged the order, she caught the void-born cadet, studying her with new intensity, crystalline surface displaying patterns she hadn't observed before. Your species, the void-born noted during a brief lull in coordination activities, appears to function optimally during system breakdown rather than under established protocols. Evolutionary implications are concerning. Maya allowed herself a small smile as she redirected another response team to counter the collective's latest movement. Humans evolved on a planet where adaptation to chaos offered better survival advantages than specialized biological development, she explained. We expect systems to fail and plan accordingly. The improvised command center continued coordinating the Academy's increasingly effective defense, with the alien cadets following the humans' directions without further question. The balance had shifted, not through Maya's physical prowess or biological advantages, but through the uniquely human talent for thriving amid disorder that more evolved species found debilitating. Maya studied the holographic representation of the collective's command vessel, identifying structural vulnerabilities while her strike team prepared for insertion. The 8-member unit represented the Academy's most combat-capable survivors, 3 Cracks warriors including Krizat, 2 Thriz infiltration specialists, a void-born energy manipulator, a Mercari sensory expert, and herself. General Dexmer had authorized the mission with obvious reluctance, particularly regarding Maya's inclusion. The humans' tactical coordination should remain station-side, he had argued during the compressed planning session. Field operations require evolved combat adaptations. Commander Axe Toril had surprisingly countered Cadet Chen's unconventional approach has proven effective against collective countermeasures specifically designed to neutralize our biological advantages. Her inclusion provides tactical diversity. Now, as the strike team's insertion craft approached the enemy vessel through a debris field created by the ongoing battle, Maya performed final equipment checks while simultaneously processing tactical updates through her neural implant. The modified infiltration suit she wore contained numerous adaptations developed by Earth's Military Technology Division, structural reinforcement, sensory enhancement modules, and medical support systems that remained undetectable to standard coalition scans. Approaching insertion point, announced the Thriz pilot, compound eyes processing multispectral data streams. Collective defensive grid remains focused on primary engagement zone. Infiltration window, 37 seconds. Kredzat performed final checks on his regeneration accelerators, scales flexing with pre-combat tension. Confirm primary objective parameters. Neutralize command functions and communication arrays. Maya responded, her voice calm despite elevated heart rate. Secondary objective. Secure tactical database for intelligence extraction. The insertion craft executed a precise maneuver using the debris field for concealment as it approached an emergency access port on the collective vessel's undercarriage. Magnetic grapples engaged, creating a sealed transfer corridor between craft. Atmospheric composition analysis indicates standard life support parameters with trace neurotoxin compounds, reported the Mercari sensory specialist, membranous surfaces rippling. Toxin concentration below effect threshold for cracks and Thriz biology. Potential impairment risk for mammalian nervous systems. All eyes turned briefly to Maya, the only mammal present. Acknowledged, she responded, activating additional filtration systems in her suit's respiratory components. Her implant automatically adjusted internal chemistry to counter potential neurotoxin effects. Proceed with insertion protocol. The team breached the access port using frequency disruptors calibrated to the collective's security systems. As they entered the vessel, Maya activated her suit's enhanced sensory mode, compensating for human biological limitations while gathering tactical data. The corridor stretched before them, curving gently in alignment with the ship's hull architecture. Minimal resistance projected until we reached Junction 7 Alpha, Maya noted, referencing the intelligent schematics they constructed. Expect automated security responses followed by dedicated defense units. The team moved with practiced efficiency, each member leveraging evolutionary advantages. The Thriz infiltration specialists navigated ventilation systems inaccessible to larger species. The Mercury detected subtle changes in atmospheric composition that indicated occupied sections ahead. The Voidborn manipulated energy fields to mask their signatures from internal sensors. Maya simply observed, analyzed, and adapted. The first resistance came not as defensive personnel but as environmental countermeasures. Sudden gravitational shifts designed to disorient bipedal movement patterns. While her companions struggled momentarily with the unexpected fluctuations, Maya implemented techniques developed by Earth's zero-gravity combat specialists, maintaining position and balance by anticipating each shift through subtle atmospheric distortion patterns. The human compensates more effectively than anticipated, observed one Thriz specialist through the secure communication channel. Your species has trained for gravitational warfare. We've trained for everything, Maya responded simply, leaving them through the disorienting section by establishing movement rhythms that worked with rather than against the shifting forces. They encountered their first collective defenders at Junction 5, three heavily augmented beings whose species origins had been obscured by extensive cybernetic modification. The defenders deployed sonic weapons calibrated to Crack's auditory vulnerability, immediately incapacitating their strongest fighters. Maya reacted without hesitation, her neural implant having analyzed the sonic pattern and projected its probable effect. She engaged directly, moving with a speed and precision that surprised even her teammates. The combat style she employed bore little resemblance to coalition military doctrine, no reliance on natural weapons or evolutionary advantages, but instead a ruthlessly efficient integration of leverage points, momentum redirection, and targeted strikes against cybernetic interface junctions. Within 12 seconds, all three defenders lay incapacitated, their systems disrupted rather than destroyed. Threat neutralized, Maya reported calmly, retrieving the sonic weapon for analysis. Krizat status. The Crack's warrior struggled to his feet, inner eyelids still fluttering from the sonic assault's aftereffects. Temporary impairment resolving. The human's combat efficiency was unexpected. They pressed forward, encountering increasingly sophisticated resistance. Each engagement revealed more of Maya's previously concealed capabilities. When atmospheric scrubbers flooded a chamber with oxygen-depleting compounds, she continued functioning well beyond the expected endurance limit for her species. When emergency bulkheads threatened to separate the team, she demonstrated strength that belied her frame, maintaining a gap long enough for all members to pass through. Your species conceals its true capabilities, accused the Voidborn during a brief security halt, crystalline surface displaying suspicion patterns. These performance parameters exceed all documented human physiological benchmarks. Earth's gravity is higher than coalition standard, Maya explained, the partial truth sufficient for the moment. And our atmospheric composition required evolutionary adaptations that provide certain advantages in stress situations. The explanation satisfied immediate curiosity, though Maya noted the Thriz specialists exchanging what their species considered whispered communication, ultrasonic frequencies they believed beyond human perception range. Her enhanced auditory systems captured their concerns about Death World evolutionary pressure models and predator response optimization. The team reached the command vessel's central processing node after neutralizing 4 additional security checkpoints. Krizat had recovered sufficiently to take point position as they prepared to breach the heavily reinforced access portal. Final objective approach, Maya confirmed through the tactical network. Breach and clear, pattern sigma. Priority targets identified on interior schematic. The breach proceeded according to plan until the final barrier, an unexpected energy field calibrated specifically against Voidborn phase shifting. Their energy manipulation specialist convulsed upon contact, crystalline structure destabilizing as emergency containment protocols engaged. Trap specifically designed for our team composition. Krizat snarled, scales darkening with combat response hormones. They anticipated our approach vector and capabilities. Maya's mind raced through tactical alternatives while her implant analyzed the energy barrier's frequency patterns. Coalition doctrine would recommend retreat and reassessment, the logical response when encountering specifically engineered countermeasures. Instead, she stepped forward. Cover position, maintain security cordon, she instructed, removing components from her equipment harness. I'll disable the barrier. Impossible, objected the senior Thriz specialist. The energy configuration exceeds your species' technological manipulation capability. Maya didn't argue, instead assembling a crude device from communication components, medical supplies, and power cells. The improvised approach appeared haphazard to her teammates, but followed established Earth Special Forces protocols for field-expedient solutions using limited resources. Stand clear, she warned, placing the device against a specific junction point in the barrier matrix. The improvised disruptor activated with a high-pitched whine, creating localized interference patterns that exploited harmonic vulnerabilities in the barrier's modulation. A 2-meter section of energy field destabilized, creating a temporary access point. Breach window, approximately 7 seconds, Maya calculated. Execute priority ingress. The team surged through the opening, securing the command center with practiced efficiency. As Maya had predicted, the collective leadership prioritized technological defenses over personal security, leaving their command staff vulnerable once automated systems were compromised. Mission success appeared imminent until a secondary defense activated, neural scramblers specifically calibrated to disrupt multiple species' brain patterns simultaneously. Maya's teammates collapsed in various states of neurological distress as the carefully modulated fields overwhelmed evolved neural structures. Maya alone remained functional, her neural implant automatically generating counter-frequencies that preserved critical cognitive functions. She moved through the incapacitated defenders methodically, securing the command center while simultaneously initiating the technical interface required to complete their mission objectives. When Krizet regained consciousness, 13 minutes later, he found the human efficiently completing the final intelligence extraction protocols. Around her lay the command staff, not killed, but precisely incapacitated through pressure point techniques that transcended species-specific anatomies. The neural scrambler. He began, struggling to reconcile his memory of total incapacitation with the secured command center. Human nervous systems developed through different evolutionary pressures, Maya explained, continuing her work without interruption. Our neural pathways lack the specialized efficiency that made your systems vulnerable. The truth that her implant represented Earth's most advanced neural interface technology, specifically designed to counter such weapons, remained classified. Let them believe it was natural human resilience rather than technological countermeasures. As the remaining team members recovered, Maya completed the mission objectives and established secure communication with Academy Defense Forces. Throughout the extraction process and return journey, she noted the changed dynamics among her teammates, the way they maintained distance, their altered communication patterns, the evaluative observation that had replaced dismissive tolerance. They no longer saw her as an evolutionary inferior to be accommodated, but as something they lacked framework to properly classify, a species that became more dangerous precisely when situations deteriorated beyond normal parameters. Maya had finally revealed humanity's true evolutionary advantage. They were catastrophe-adapted, crisis-optimized, and most dangerous when systems failed. The revelation had achieved precisely what Earth Command had intended when sending her to the Academy. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Coalition gleamed under ceremonial illumination, its architecture designed to accommodate beings from across the known galaxy. Curved walls displayed battle damage artfully preserved rather than repaired, a traditional coalition practice that honored significant conflicts. Dignitaries from 24 member worlds occupied tiered observation platforms, their attention focused on the graduation ceremony below. Maya stood at perfect attention among the surviving cadets, acutely aware of the changed dynamics surrounding her position. No longer relegated to the periphery as a curiosity, she occupied a central position in the formation, flanked by Krizat and Veshna. The 3 weeks since the collective attack had transformed the Academy's internal hierarchy more profoundly than any policy directive could have achieved. Commander Axtoral approached the ceremonial platform, the damage to his exoskeleton now healed but deliberately left marked, another coalition tradition signifying survival of significant combat. His movements carried formal precision as he activated the holographic display system. Today, we recognize extraordinary service during unprecedented circumstances. He began, voice modulated to carry across species-specific hearing ranges. The Scorch Collective's attack represented the most significant breach of coalition security in 17 standard cycles. That we stand here today reflects the unexpected capabilities demonstrated by this graduating class. The display shifted to show tactical recordings from the crisis, defense coordination, counterstrikes, and finally the command ship infiltration. Maya noted the careful editing that obscured certain aspects of her performance while highlighting others. Coalition intelligence had clearly reviewed the material, sanitizing elements that revealed too much about human capabilities while preserving enough to establish a new narrative. Exceptional service merits exceptional recognition, Axtoral continued, gesturing toward the Academy leadership assembled behind him. The High Command has authorized special commendations for actions during the crisis. The commander proceeded through a series of awards, acknowledging contributions from various cadets. The Thriz communication specialists who had worked with Maya received recognition for innovative information distribution protocols, though the ceremony diplomatically omitted that these were adaptations of human military communication systems. Cadet Krizat, Axtoral announced, stepped forward to receive the mark of endurance for continuing function despite critical system disruption during the command ship operation. The massive cracks moved with ceremonial precision, scales polished to formal presentation standard. As he accepted the commendation, his inner eyelids flickered briefly toward Maya, an acknowledgement invisible to most observers but clear in its meaning. The gesture represented significant evolution in his perspective. 3 months earlier, he would have considered human recognition irrelevant. Cadet Chen, Axtoral called finally, stepped forward. Maya advanced to the ceremonial position, maintaining coalition military protocol while subtly incorporating Earth formal posture elements, a diplomatic balance her training had emphasized. The assembled dignitaries shifted with increased attention, many utilizing sensory enhancements to study her more carefully. For actions during the collective incursion, the coalition bestows the Star of Adaptive Valor, Axtoral announced, presenting an crystalline emblem that pulsed with internal energy. Additionally, by directive of the Strategic Council, Earth's classification within coalition databases has been formally amended. A murmur spread through the assembly as the holographic display shifted to show administrative classifications. Maya maintained neutral expression as she watched Earth's designation change from developing species/provisional membership to emergent strategic power/full membership, with an additional marker she recognized as the coalition's designation for species with significant military potential. Cadet Chen has additionally been granted special dispensation to address the assembly, Axtoral announced, stepping aside with formal precision that nevertheless betrayed subtle reluctance. Maya moved to the central position, acutely aware that her words would be transmitted across coalition space and carefully analyzed by strategic divisions on dozens of worlds. Earth Command had provided guidelines for this moment while granting her tactical discretion regarding specific content. Distinguished representatives, Honored instructors, fellow graduates, she began, voice steady and measured. The crisis we face together revealed fundamental truths about cooperation across evolutionary boundaries. Each species contributed unique capabilities developed through distinct adaptive pressures. She paused, allowing translation systems to synchronize before continuing. Humanity does not possess superior physical characteristics or specialized biological adaptations. We cannot regenerate tissue like the cracks, manipulate energy fields like the voidborn, or process sensory information across multiple spectrums like the Frez. These remarkable evolutionary developments represent billions of years of specialized adaptation to stable environments. The holographic display shifted to show Earth, a swirling blue-green sphere that appeared deceptively peaceful from orbital perspective. Humans instead evolved on a planet that never stopped trying to kill us, Maya continued. Earth experiences regular extinction-level events, ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, pandemic diseases, and catastrophic climate fluctuations. Our evolutionary pressure wasn't specialization but adaptability to rapidly changing survival conditions. She gestured toward her fellow graduates, acknowledging their capabilities. Coalition species evolved remarkable biological tools for specific environmental challenges. Humans evolved problem-solving capacity that functions optimally during system breakdown. Where specialized adaptations become vulnerabilities during crisis, human cognitive flexibility becomes an asset. We expect systems to fail and instinctively create alternatives. The assembly remained silent, multiple species processing her words through their unique neurological frameworks. Maya recognized the critical importance of her next statement. It needed to reassure while simultaneously establishing appropriate caution. Earth seeks peaceful integration within the galactic community, she affirmed. Our adaptive capabilities represent potential contributions to collective security rather than cause for concern. However, understanding our evolutionary background provides important context for future cooperation. The unspoken message hung clearly in the subtext. Underestimating humans could prove dangerous precisely because they evolved to function under conditions that other species considered catastrophic. As Maya concluded her address and returned to formation, she noted the subtle changes in physiological responses among the assembled dignitaries, thoughtful rather than dismissive, cautious rather than condescending. Earth Command would be pleased. The mission parameters had been achieved more effectively than projected timelines had anticipated. Later, during the formal reception, Maya found herself approached by Administrator Vexlor, a senior coalition diplomat whose crystalline structure indicated ancient voidborn lineage. Your presentation proved most illuminating, Graduate Chen, the administrator observed, surface patterns shifting through analytical configurations. Our xenobiologists have begun reassessing human development models based on crisis adaptation theory rather than standard evolutionary progress metrics. Maya inclined her head respectfully. Different environmental pressures produce different adaptive responses. The coalition's diversity represents its greatest strength. Indeed, the administrator agreed, though subsidiary crystalline formations displayed skepticism patterns. Our research division has begun reviewing historical records from Earth with renewed interest. Perhaps you might clarify something our analysts found particularly noteworthy. The administrator's surface displayed footage Maya immediately recognized. Children playing in an Earth playground, engaged in competitive activities and impromptu war games. The images shifted to show military training exercises, athletic competitions, and educational simulations. Your species appears to deliberately simulate crisis conditions during development phases, Vexlor observed. Your juvenile training incorporates artificial conflict scenarios, intentional resource limitation, and structured competition that mimics survival pressure. Most notably, these activities appear to be recreational rather than obligatory. Maya considered several potential responses before selecting careful honesty. Humans evolved to function optimally under challenge conditions. We instinctively create such conditions even when our environment doesn't naturally provide them. The administrator's crystalline surface rippled with what Maya's cultural training identified as the void-born equivalent of troubled understanding. Your species intentionally creates hardship to maintain adaptive capabilities that evolved under extinction pressure, Vexlor summarized. You simulate catastrophe to prevent adaptive regression. An interesting perspective, Maya acknowledged diplomatically. As the reception continued, she noted multiple coalition security personnel documenting her interactions, undoubtedly compiling behavioral analysis for strategic planning divisions. The diplomatic mission had succeeded beyond projected parameters. Earth was no longer dismissed as an evolutionary backwater, but recognized as a species shaped by fundamentally different pressures. Maya's neural implant discreetly recorded the entire proceeding for Earth Command's analysis. As the first human to complete the Academy program, her experience would shape humanity's integration strategy for generations. The Coalition now understood they weren't dealing with an underdeveloped species seeking protection, but with catastrophe-adapted survivors whose greatest strengths emerged precisely when orderly systems collapsed. The galaxy had dismissed humans as weak until they witnessed what Earth's evolutionary crucible had forged, a species that treated crisis as opportunity and chaos as advantage. They would never make that mistake again.